welcome back, my nomads. Welcome back to another Bitcast. I'm back here again with Zach. What's going on, Zach?
Hey man, happy Saturday.
Yeah, man, it's hot, bro. It's hot,
I
very
I
very
feel like
hot.
everyone says it's hot. It's because it is everywhere. It's pretty wild. I feel like when you're get to a certain age, the small talk starts with the weather, and then it kind of evolves to more weather stuff like that's not in your region. Like, did you see that hurricane in Florida? Well, the hurricane doesn't affect us at all, and then it kind of evolves to I don't even know what. I'm not looking forward to it, but it's just a gradual evolution. What do you think?
Yeah, man, it's just wild, man. It's just wild. I don't even want to think about the heat. I can feel it radiating right next to me, and I'm just like,
You East
oh,
Coasters don't
what's?
understand this. This is normal out here.
Well, y'all have dry radiation heat, which is crazy in itself, man. Like we got this wet humidity that's just sticky and nasty
I
and
rather deal with the wet though because your skin doesn't dry out. You don't get these nosebleeds all the time.
oof.
As soon as you walk outside, there's nothing you can do. Like there's like nothing. You just sit there and you're just cooking.
Mm. Yeah, man. I don't know.
Well, since you've been
I
inside,
I think
what have you been doing this week?
mm. Oh well, busy man. Editing, watching some stuff. But busy just working, man. Like working like crazy. How about you?
Yeah, I took some time off this week, even though I did it. I was kind of working still, like normal. Um,
Right.
yeah, just watching. Been playing the Elden Ring DLC. Decided to pick up this game after almost 2 years of not playing it. And tell you what, man, it took about 45 minutes to an hour to like get myself back into reality of my mindset. Yeah, I'm gonna die a lot. This is hard.
Yeah, man, that stuff is crazy, bro. Like you in those hard games, y'all can have that. Cause I ain't mess with that shit, bro.
So here's the thing, right? Like I looked at the stats for Elden Ring the last 2 months. Approximately at any given time, there's over 250,000 players playing at any given moment.
Still.
Still, what does that say? Like,
Okay.
how do you have a game that's for the most part single player, right? There's multiplayer elements, but not really.
Hmm.
And how do you have something so successful when we live in an age of live game services? It's still got the appeal after 2 years. I mean, how do they do it? How do these soul games work like this?
Well, for one, their games don't seem to be broken. You know, they
That's true. Yeah.
they aim to complete a game before it drops. Whereas many of these companies, they uh they just want to put something out, have it in your hands, and then they'll fix it later with a patch and another patch and another patch, and then a DLC that should have been in the game from the start, but they'll charge you for that DLC. Stuff like that. Two, they tell a complete story. Now, From Software is different. Instead of having like a story-driven game like Spider-Man or uh, God of War, they they just build a bunch of lore, build a world, build a universe, then drop the player in it. So I think it's because they treat their audience, they don't handhold them, right? Like their games are difficult, and they also don't handhold you through the story. You got to figure it out yourself. You got to pick up the pieces, and their worlds are enormous, and they're full of lore that works, and it makes sense, and it's cohesive. They know how to make worlds. Whereas some of these games, it's like you're clearly pushing an agenda, or the story is lackluster, the writing's not good. It's just, or they don't have a story at all. It's literally just a battle, not even a battle sim. What are those battle royale games where they just throw you in there? It's not even a real world. It's just a map, a map,
Yeah.
and then they'll have like character backstories, like
Hmm.
little 2 minute character backstory, but that's it.
So
You know.
I'll give you a good comparison of these Soul games, Elden Ring. It's like the IKEA video games. IKEA has built a very successful model of not building any of the furniture for you. It's do it yourself, which is why it's as cheap as it is, even though it's good quality for the most part. But who likes to put together furniture? Everyone thought that, hey, when they first came around, how's this going to be successful? Who's going to want to put their stuff together? People have figured it out. Like, you know what? I'd rather put it together and save me a couple $100 than and figure out how to get it home versus have it shipped, have someone else put it together, and it costs like 50% more, right? Like, there's just something
Mm.
about figuring it out yourself. There's some satisfaction to it. And I feel like this game kind of has a similar model where the map is very difficult to navigate purposefully. Like, it gives you some markers kind of, but the story, it doesn't give you like one particular place where it's linear and it tells you to go there. You have to figure it out for yourself by exploring and understanding that each part of the levels or maps or whatever you want to call it has a predetermined difficulty, and it's up to you to figure out if it's too hard for you or not. And if not, you come back later. But it doesn't tell you if it's too hard for you. You just get murdered. But it works really well. Like the player base as a whole is very fascinating. I like the messages you can put into the world and stuff, and you can help people out. You can summon other people to help you with one boss battle. Like, that's pretty cool. And like you said, I feel like it's one of the few games that's left that doesn't give you some kind of narrative or position that's just getting thrown down your throat. And people appreciate that.
Hmm. Yeah, you treat your audience like an adult, and it'll grow with the audience, which is why like games after 2 years have like a low player count, whereas Elden Ring is still going strong. Like
Isn't
you
that
said, like a
wild though? Like,
crazy
that many
number,
people.
and it's not an easy game, so that should tell you something.
It's not in the sense where it's easy. It's challenging if you stay in your lane, but you have to figure out where your lane is, and you kind of have to draw that path on your own, because you're going to go into some places you're like, I have no business being here, and you don't know how long it actually how what the threshold is for you to actually get through that level. And so you're actually like, okay, you got to fight these guys and die like really quick. And I don't think there's another game franchise that's like this. Personally, like Jedi Survivor is kind of like that, but for the most part,
But it's a copycat.
yeah, you're right. This is pretty much the OG, right?
Think about it. From Software started this
Whole
genre,
thing. Yeah.
which is why they, which is why the term Soulslike has been coined, because they started that whole Dark Souls type of gaming,
Demon. What's the other one? It's
or
like
Demon Souls,
Bloodborne, um,
Bloodborne. Yeah.
Demon Slayer, whatever the name of that is. It's like those are the games, right? From Software does Elden Ring though, right? It's the same people that do Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or Sekiro Never Dies Twice.
Yeah, just hard games. But if you take the time and you learn it, it's very rewarding because you got to figure it out. You know,
That's not your cup of tea.
nah, nah, I ain't got time for that shit. I, I'm I'm the guy who puts the game on easy mode and just rocks out. You know,
See, there's
that's
no
me.
difficulty in here. You can't change it. That's it.
Yeah, that's
What you
another
get,
thing.
it's
It's
what
just
you get in
difficult.
here.
Exactly. Exactly. Elden Ring was my first and only Souls game. I'll never buy a game like that again.
You didn't play for very long, did you?
Nah, about a month. And I was like, oh, this was a waste of $60.
No, it
It is
wasn't,
what it
because
is.
you got a lot out of it. Like, you got a lot of understanding. Like, you know what? There could be really good games that are done from point A to point Z before it actually gets released. And, there's something to appreciate about that.
It made me realize that I need a narrative. It might be because I'm a movie guy, or maybe I just like stories, but I need a narrative. Like my favorite games are like Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, the
Mass
Spider
Effect's
Man, like
perfect with
games.
this,
Mass Effect. Oh, Mass Effect. Don't get me started on that. I love Mass Effect. Like I need games with story and character
which is
building
probably
and
going to be
stuff like
ruined
that. You know.
with the narrative stuff, I feel like.
We got to see because I know Mass Effect 5 is a long ways out, but we got to see if Sweet Baby Inc. is a part of Mass Effect. Because if they are, I'm not getting it. I'll just play the Legendary Edition over again, which I still got to finish. I'm on the third game, midway through the third game, but I still got to finish. But like, yeah, if they're a part of it, I'm good. I'm cool. You know,
So I wasn't
chuck it to
super
the side.
familiar with these people or this company until you mentioned something to me the other day about it. Um, for everyone, kind of explain in layman's terms what they are and what the goal is.
All right, so you might know a little bit more than me now, but uh, I might bastardize this, but so Sweet Baby Inc. is one PR company that handles pretty much all the video games here in the West, where they're kind of, I guess I could use the word woke. I don't know any better word. Wokeifying,
Inclusiveness is a good way to put it.
inclusiveness. You know, wokeifying. Um, I guess you could say weaponized diversity. Um, who are doing this to all these games. And if you noticed, it really started small. It started with the look of female characters. First, female characters stopped looking sexy or attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, first it was the female characters were not wearing sexy outfits.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became the character models don't look sexy either. You know what I'm saying? So like example is Horizon Zero Dawn, I think it's called. Aloy, the main character, she looked totally different in the second game than she did in the first game. They basically uglified her. You know, stuff like that started happening.
Stellar
And
Blade never
now,
got that message.
well, that's a Korean game. That's an Eastern game. And then when they got criticism for that by the small 1% of people who have a problem with a sexy looking main character, they leaned into it and made her even more attractive looking
Oh yeah, they released some
with
more
even more real
suits
stuff.
for it
Yeah.
because I played that game to utter completion. Right, it was just fun. It wasn't because it looked like it was just a fun action game. And as soon as I heard something about it, they released the most skimpy outfits you could put on your character. It's like that's how you combat this nonsense.
Yeah. And like, I'm trying to find pictures of like how Aloy looked. Like it's hard, but if you look it up, you know, you'll find like pictures of her in the first game compared to the second game. She looks way different. And now like it's a constant thing. But in layman's terms, like Sweet Baby Inc. is pushing this, I guess you could say, woke agenda across the video games, and it's been very aggressive the past few years. And I haven't played the second Spider-Man Insomniac game, but from what I hear, it's all over that game. And now the PR company is working on the new Wolverine game. Now this is a PR company whose higher ups. I've only seen women in their higher up positions who have been on interviews talking about their goal is to make men uncomfortable. Their goal is to paraphrasing, you know, basically erase white men and stuff like that. You know, so it's kind of ridiculous that you could say stuff like this and not be, you know,
Yeah, how can you
penalized or
not be
whatever against.
ostracized? Where if we talked about any other minority, you would automatically just be called a racist, right? It's like almost like it's impossible for anyone to be a racist towards a white person, because it's been this this idea of like, for eternity we've ruled the world type of thing. So it's like, well, it's just desserts, so it's balancing and equaling out and all that crap. So I think a little more. One thing that you said offline was that you can tell if it's a character that's been redesigned based on the image of Sweet Baby Inc. because all the female characters look the same, and that kind of like
They
got to
all look
me.
the same. If you
And
look at the main character for Star Wars Outlaws
yes,
and Aloy and the new Fable game coming out, it's like they all, and even Mary Jane's character model in the first Spider-Man game versus the second Spider-Man game,
yes.
and they have a trend too. Sweet Baby Inc. has a trend. I'm not trying to call anybody ugly or anything like that, but all these female character models look like somebody on their team. It was revealed that the Fable person is modeled after a transgender person. The Mary Jane model is not solely based on the original face model from the first game. It's based on somebody who works for Sweet Baby Inc. Now, I might be wrong. I might be getting some of this wrong. All I'm saying is look it up for yourself. Do your own research, because this is an issue. It's it's really messing up our quality of games and storytelling. And instead of pushing an agenda, how about you just give me a good story? I actually wonder too if they worked on God of War Ragnarok. I wonder that. I'm about to look that up.
Hmm.
And you hear like the same kind of rhetoric that you hear with Lucasfilm whenever they're doing some backward stuff. It's like anytime you try to ask a question, you're instantly vilified. Oh, you got a problem with this? Oh, you're just this, that, and the third. It's like, come on, man.
Are you familiar
Come on.
with Mark Kern?
No.
Okay, Mark Kern. What his resume for games is insane. He was originally a dev team lead for the original World of Warcraft,
Mm-hmm.
producer for StarCraft 2, Chrono Trigger. I mean, we're talking some big time games right here. Diablo 2. The list
Oh,
goes on
okay.
and on, right? So, and this guy is one of the most vocal people in the industry that actually says something about this nonsense. And I'm surprised there's not more people doing it, but he had a very
I see a lot of it
interesting,
online,
yeah,
but they get a
he had a very
silence. But go ahead.
interesting conversation he put on X the other day about how a lot of developers that are working for companies that are getting um, consultations from Sweet Baby Inc. or equivalent companies saying that they spent a long time trying to make a character. The character is too attractive. The character is not inclusive enough. They get upset because they spent all this time. And then, in order for them to get any kind of a character approved, they just got to make them ugly. They're straight
Very
ugly. And
true.
it's like the fact that we're at this point, while it's not even, it's more than a fact. Women or men alike prefer to play with someone who's attractive in a video game. That's just how it is. I don't know where this came from all of a sudden that women don't feel
Well,
it's well known, like women or men are humans at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what their gender is. The desire to look at something or someone attractive is the same and it's universal. Where this just came from, I don't understand. It doesn't matter.
so it's been said that Sweet Baby Inc. and these companies do this. They want ugly characters because they don't want to offend trans people.
Yeah, who's
But
the
then I'm like,
minor?
isn't that
Who's the minority
insulting?
in literally everything in terms of
But isn't that
consumption?
insulting trans people?
Yeah, you're saying they're all
Wouldn't
ugly.
that?
That's all you're saying. That's all you're doing.
So I'm
I mean,
like,
most of them don't look human anyway, so it's just how it is. But
oh
that's
my
besides
god.
the point. No, but you get what I'm saying. You see these characters, they don't look human. Like you see them, they're like, where did
No.
this come from? Right? Like, it's just at what point do we just say,
I'll say not the trans people I've seen. Trans people I've seen look like trans people, but I've seen non-binary people who just look different,
Well, they get
and
conflated,
I'm
right?
like,
And they're two separate people,
they're two
right? Like they're
separate
two
things,
separate
right?
things altogether. But at the end of the day,
But Sweet
still,
Baby Inc. is specifically trying to not make the trans people ugly, not the non-binary people. And I'm like, but you're calling them ugly by saying you don't want to offend them by making the characters look ugly. So that's offensive. If I was trans, I'd be offended by that. You know what I'm saying? That's
and
like
there's
saying,
plenty of
"Oh,
people who,
we're making all
and
these
I know
black
there's
characters
plenty of
ugly,
people who are
so black
trans
people
who's
won't
like,
get
look,
offended."
how did we get wrapped up into this political nonsense, right? But I just don't know where we have this minor demographic who all of a sudden has this overblown power of consumption of goods and services. Majority of them are not doing that, are not like consuming video games and shows and all this. Like it's such a small fragment. Like know your audience, know your people. Like Ubisoft's CEO and president, he went on a whole thing defending about the Black Samurai and Assassin's Creed when there's little evidence to even prove that he was a samurai to begin with on the historical record, and he was doubling down on that. And Japanese people who are extremely upset, he was like, "You guys are the racists and bigots, and you need to check your privilege and all this stuff." And I'm like, "My man,
Hold up,
like, this is their
I just
culture."
gotta say something. I just gotta say something. Now, when they first announced that Yasuke would be a playable character, I didn't see an issue with it, and I said it here on the podcast. I gotta correct that. After listening to some online Japanese gamers, I was like, oh, I see why they have a problem.
Yes,
And I agree, that is an issue. If you have Assassin's Creed notably has had over the years characters who represent the region that the story is in. So if
based
you
on
have a
historical record.
Japanese Exactly. Exactly. So if you have a Japanese region of a game in feudal Japan for Assassin's Creed, you should have a Japanese assassin. And if you have two of them, you should have both of them be Japanese assassins. Just like if there was an Assassin's Creed in Africa, I would want an African assassin, not a French assassin, white French assassin, or an Irish assassin in Africa. You know what I'm
Do you
saying?
also know
So,
that a lot of the names and stuff aren't even Japanese; they're Chinese of the NPCs that are in there, and they're also having an issue with
yeah, I
that.
noticed that.
I'm like,
I noticed that.
what are we doing?
And another thing too, to your point, I've done some research, and some of the research I've found, it turns out Yasuke was more of a sword carrier as opposed to a samurai.
A samurai is a political class in feudal
Yeah.
Japan. Doesn't mean
So
just because you're carrying a sword doesn't mean you're samurai. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? He
yeah,
could have
no,
been
that's what I'm
Ronin. He could have been a
saying.
lot of different things. You
Now
know,
I haven't done a lot of research, but from the research I've seen, turns out he was just a sword carrier, and the history that they're basing Yasuke on in Assassin's Creed and a lot of other literature. I'm looking at that Netflix show that they made. You probably don't remember it. I don't even remember the name, but it's based on like character fiction that was written about him. You know what I'm saying? So I think this was just a bad move. It would have been just safer to have a Japanese, and you know why they're doing this, right? Oh, I
yes.
gotta tell you this, bro. I gotta tell you this. So I was watching a gameplay video of Assassin's Creed Shadows, and they show a gameplay of the female who's Japanese. I was like, okay, cool. Then they show video of Yasuke fighting, right? And he's a brute. He's like the tank of the team. Tell me why he got hip hop lo-fi beats and stuff anytime he fights. So
Black
tell
culture.
me.
It's black culture,
So
dude. Like
clearly
it's a
you're
real thing.
pandering.
Like no, they're putting modern cultural elements into it to make people more appealing to it. You know, because
Now
look,
let
here's
me.
the thing: there's a lot of pre-orders for this game. So just because you have a large portion of gamers in Japan that might have an issue with this, the president's like, "Well, why is everyone else okay with this?" And they're buying the game. I'm like, dude, like,
Hold on, hold on. But my issue is Yasuke, based on history, is from Africa. He is not African American. He is African. So why wouldn't you have African influenced music instead of instead of like hip hop beats. Tell me you're pandering to an audience without telling me you're pandering to an audience. Like, you clearly made the protagonist black and gave him hip hop beats for a reason, bro. Stop playing with me. Like, come on, man.
It's because
You know what
Africans
you're
don't
doing.
get representation. Like, you know this. Like, you go anywhere, they're at the bottom end of
Yeah.
the spectrum in terms of like, social class and all that stuff. African Americans, whole different story, right? So it's just
But I see plenty of African Americans online who are just like, yo, you're pandering to me and I don't like what you're doing either.
I'm
So,
glad finally there's enough people like saying something, because at some point it's like enough is enough. Like, why do we have like specific? I'm just curious. This is not because I'm just curious. Why do we have specific and like music labels, movie and TV studios of black culture when you know you can't just lump a whole group of like an ethnic blacks, like, because they could come from anywhere. Do all of them all have the same culture all of a sudden? How does that make sense to me? It's like putting white people together. Like people from Russia and Ireland are completely different. We're going to see things differently, and all that stuff. Like, how does this make sense?
um, that's a perfect example of what you're talking about is the cast of Black Panther, right? You got black people from all around the world. I mean, the one chick, I forget her full name, but I know her last name is Kasumba, who's from France. She's French African. What's his name? Winston Duke, Trinidadian. Chadwick Boseman, African American. There's what's her name is from England. Like, there's so
Winston Duke
many.
was the big guy, right?
Yeah, M'Baku, the big
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
You
just
know,
making sure I got
yeah,
that right.
yeah, he's Trinidadian. So it's like you said, there's so many blacks from so many different parts and different regions that we're not a monolith. So
How are you going to relate to anyone? Because there's black people in Venezuela. How are you going to relate to anyone who's black from Venezuela or Cuba versus someone who's from Africa, or you have black Chinese people, right? Like, I don't understand. Like, how are you going to just lump everyone together? It doesn't make sense to
if
me.
you try to make everyone happy, you end up making no one happy. And by the way, Sweet Baby Ing did work on God of War. Apparently, they worked on God of War Ragnarok to make the black character more appealing.
Black character.
This is what it says on. Remember, Agrabota? She was the black kid.
Oh, her. Yes, yes, yes,
I
yes. The
think that's her
giant, the
last. I
giant
think
girl.
that's
Yeah,
her
yeah,
name.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, apparently they were trying to make her more appealing to a wider audience. Wow.
I just
But
feel
whatever,
like what you should do. I mean, I have a really good tip for some white people who don't understand and you don't want to step on toes. Find a really attractive actress, singer, whoever who's black. Ask them their opinion, and then just model it after them, and you're fine. I don't understand why do you have to go through all this extreme lengths. We know
I
what's
don't know,
attractive and
bro.
what's appealing. It doesn't matter what the race is. I don't understand. There's universal truths, right? Like, it doesn't. I don't understand. Uh, well, I still liked Ragnarok though, so I'm glad it's. Oh, okay.
I didn't finish it. Here's a first game,
Oh, I see.
second game.
A lot more manly features. No, I'm serious.
I know, you're not lying.
Look at
Because
her
I
face
was like,
structure,
she
dude.
looks
It's
totally different.
kind of looks like Joe Rogan with long hair. I'm serious.
But yeah, like that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, man. Where it's like
Her
what's going
nose is
on here?
different.
Yeah.
Forehead, everything. Eyes. Her eyes aren't as there's wow, that's wild, dude.
It's totally different, bro. It's totally different.
Mm.
And it's clearly there's an agenda going on.
And then you
You know
look
what
at
I'm
Stellar
saying?
Blade. Show a picture of that. All the characters in there
Oh
are
my.
hot. That's the thing. It's not just the main character. All of them are attractive. It's like Final Fantasy.
I know, right? But
Final
you're
Fantasy.
starting to
So
see.
remember, like Final Fantasy 15, there was a multiplayer for it, and you can create your own
Yes.
character. I tried my
Mm-hmm.
absolute best to make my character ugly, and it was impossible. I went
Oh
out of
my
my way.
gosh.
It's like, how do I make this character look like Lord Voldemort? Nothing.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, like here we go.
Here, Stellar Blade.
Like
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? Like this is not an American game. This
Oh,
is
it's
Korean, I believe.
there is no way you're going to get this type of identity politics in anywhere in Asia. There's no way.
Nah, there's no way.
Oh, this chick. It's like Rosie O'Donnell.
And it's crazy when you look at
Because the
the
voice
character
actress is
models.
extremely pretty, dude. Like, why didn't you just.
That's what I'm saying, though. When you look at
And
the
she's a
character
minority. I don't
models
understand. It's like, what's the issue?
and then you compare them to the actual people they model them after, night and day.
If I was the voice actress
Night
for the
and day.
person who did that, who's playing her, because she's done other stuff, I would be offended.
Well, you're starting to see that. You're starting to see the voice actors and especially the character developers of these video games companies going on Twitter and like they're like, look, this is originally what I designed my character as, and it was denied. And they gave me notes, and the notes basically said uglify them. Basically, like I want you to see this.
Mm.
Mary Jane in the first game versus the second game.
Okay, now I'm starting to see it.
You see what I'm saying? Like they completely. Oh, and this is they basically made. Yeah, they basically made them look like a person on their staff. So, if you don't have to believe us, Nomads. You can look it up. All this stuff is public knowledge. You can. I'd
All right,
rather
it's
you
making my
look it
blood
up
boil. It
and
never
get your
makes
own.
me want to play a game again. But anyway, look them up, guys. All right, so moving on. As you probably
Especially the
know,
interviews of the higher ups, they are very hostile, and the way they talk, it's very
naturally, because they have no good points on anything, so they get defensive.
yeah,
Naturally.
like Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, right. All right, so as you know, Las Vegas is quickly becoming a place for movies to start filming stuff. We got a movie studio being built out
Hmm.
here thanks to Mark Wahlberg and Sony. You know, given how LA is expensive and no one wants to live there because of, the
It's
insanity that is
craziness.
California. Do you
Yeah,
think Las Vegas has a legitimate shot to replace LA as a viable place for movie studios?
I think so. I mean, especially like movies like you could shoot something like The Mandalorian out there. You could shoot something like Mad Max Fury Road out there because it's dry, flat land,
Mm-hmm.
or because it's dry and flat land, you can dress up the land how you want. You know what I'm saying? There's plenty of like wide open spaces there. Like remember The Matrix Reloaded,
Mm-hmm.
that scene on the freeway? They built a freeway, like a fake one strip of freeway just for that scene. You can do that in Vegas. You can build sets like that. And they had it outside, it wasn't inside. So like you can build stuff like that, like a fake freeway for scenes like that and stuff like that. So yeah, man, like I think Vegas will definitely pop off with the movie scene. And you're starting to see this with a lot of stuff, right? Like you're starting to see certain hot spots that were good for something start to falter, and there's a new spot. Like it happened with comedy. Now Texas is like the comedy spot
Joe
ever since
Rogan, I
Joe
feel like, is
Rogan.
almost single-handedly responsible for bringing comedy to Austin.
Of course, of course, he was just tired of the silliness, and so now people from L.A., New York, are moving down to Texas, and they're making it the new spot. I heard Joe Rogan's club down there is
Was it
insane.
Spaceship something?
I don't know the name. I just know like everybody's getting paid. Even the waiters and waitresses, they're just getting crazy paid. Oh my gosh. I know we just finished this conversation. But I have to show you this picture. It's insane. You were just talking about the voice model
Oh yeah.
versus the end product.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? All right, I just had to show you
There should
that.
be like
But
there needs to be a meme. You know how like that there's that girl walking by and it's the guy holding the girl's hand and he looks back with the face and stuff and she's looking at him. There needs to be that.
I'm sure there's a meme out there for all this going on. Not to mention, Mary. I didn't play the second game, but the first game, her missions were the worst. But anyway, yeah, I definitely think Vegas would be dope. I mean, they just built the Sphere out there, so you could do like award shows out there. You could do what's it called? What am I trying to say? Premieres out there.
Yeah, dude.
Like
Yeah.
that would be insane. Like I
The
just want to
Sphere
go to
would be
Vegas
perfect for the
just for the
Oscars and all
Sphere.
that stuff.
Oh, insane, insane! I
We
see it
just
coming.
can't have the same people that has the stranglehold over Hollywood studios in terms of who gets what and all that. Like they need to go. The power's gone. It's like we don't want your ultra liberal insanity here. We need to have like fresh ideas, fresh people, like what California and Hollywood was made for specifically when they came out there to make movies because Edison had the monopoly of all that stuff in New Jersey, and that's why they moved there to begin with. So I feel like we need another
Mm-hmm.
reckoning of this, kind of start over, have
Oh,
some
it's happening.
competition.
The people have spoken. The people, I mean, look at the ticket sales lately.
Oh,
This is
it's
like the
awful.
worst summer run
Ever.
ever. And I'm a movie guy, you know that. I like going to the theater, and I just have no motivation to go to the theater. None. I'm even questioning if I'm going to see Deadpool and Wolverine.
Mm.
I never thought that I would question to see that movie, but now I'm like, Marvel's been giving me trash
I'm not
after
going to pay for it.
trash. I feel you on that. You know, I feel you on that. I mean, we talked about it how many times when all this unethical business practices are happening, piracy is the winner, you know. Rightfully so.
I'm glad
So
I
it's
don't
like
pay for half those movies because I'm like, man, I'm glad I didn't spend that money because movie tickets aren't cheap, dude.
I know. It's crazy. I had that Regal thing for a year. It ran out. I didn't run it back because I'm like, there's
I
nothing
mean,
on
going
the
to a
horizon.
4K theater, IMAX, all that stuff, it's like $22 a ticket. It's like, wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Remember, they're like
So
$8.
oh yeah, the good days.
Not even
When you were a kid, you would spend
550.
like $8 for one movie, and then you would just movie hop for three other movies, and you would see like four movies in a day for only $8. You know, but now it's just I don't know. There's nothing really to see. I mean, I liked Fall Guy. I liked Bad Boys Ride or Die. Uh, but lately, I didn't. Even, I love George Miller, but I didn't go see Furiosa because I was like, come on, bro, come on. But from the people who have seen it said it was good. It was just wasn't the right timing for that movie, you know. And it
It's on my
wasn't the right
list.
timing
I'm gonna
for
watch it.
Furiosa. It wasn't the right timing, and nor did anyone ask for it. You made a spin-off movie for a character no one cared about in a universe that's for a different character, you know? And you tried to draw that audience in by saying Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Didn't work, bro. Didn't work. You tried it. Didn't work. No one wanted that movie. She was a side character in the last one that came out like 10 years ago. Why did it take you 10 years to create a spin-off of a character no one really cared about? Okay? So, you know,
Well,
whatever.
people, if you're interested, if you move to Vegas, it's very expensive. Make sure you pay your taxes and you don't vote insane and keep our gun laws. And I welcome you. So, looking forward to it. A lot of people live out here, dude. I feel like Jeremy Renner moved from LA to Reno. Like Nevada is just a spot now. You got like Brad Pitt out here. You got Shaquille O'Neal. You got all kinds of people. Mark Wahlberg, obviously. So
Right.
it's really exciting to see this city grow because I've lived here going on 10 years and I mean, you were out here not too long ago and I showed you where it was when it was nothing when I lived here and it's sprawling. It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Um,
It's growing
So
fast.
I was really sad that we're going to talk about this, but that Dark Matter finale, man, fantastic.
Yes. Yes. Great show. I think it's a sleeper hit because I don't hear anybody talking about this show.
How?
I think, I
How?
think, the Acolyte is so bad
Ugh.
that it's
I
just
don't want to talk about the
overshadowed.
Acolyte.
Over,
I just, ugh.
it's just so bad that it's overshadowed everything else. This is
Yeah.
like I watch a lot of like reviewers, and this is all they're talking about is how bad the Acolyte is and how bad Disney and Kathleen Kennedy has handled it. I don't want to get into it, but Dark Matter is just like a sleeper hit, a show where I couldn't tell where it was going every week, which is a rarity. So if I find a show or a movie that keeps me guessing, I'm hooked. And it kept me hooked in, and I did not see it ending the way it did. What did you think of it? Was it a good finale? Did you want
No, it's just like
more?
the book. Oh, of course I want more, but I
Oh, it was the same in
understand
the
it was a
book?
short series. Huh?
Was it the same in the book? That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It
All
was a
right.
short series, so I understood that it was going to come to an end, and it was great, dude. They hit it out of the park. Like this, they made something that is extremely complicated, and we're not talking about time travel. We're talking about dimension hopping,
Multiverse.
and they
Yeah.
made it palatable for the average person to understand and really get it. Like, and the Blake Crouch is his name. He got a little bit of heat from critics saying about how the show isn't easy to follow, and he did that on purpose. I thought it was really simple to follow because the transitioning from Jason 1 to Jason 2 was the snap. You could tell based on how they were
Literally a
dressed
snap.
and how they look, and all of this
It
other
sounded like the Nintendo Switch snap every time. But I didn't find it hard. This is
people
going to
find
sound
things to hate, dudes. Like because there's adult themes and it's not following one agenda or anything like this. It's just a good, well done written show. People have to find something to hate on it. I don't get it.
I think this is going to sound mean, but I don't mean to sound mean. I honestly think people were critiquing that it was hard to follow because it didn't follow the conventional story beats, but I like it because of that.
You
Because I
mean
didn't know where
they're
it was going.
stupid? That's why.
No, I'm not saying.
Read in between the lines. He's saying they're stupid, and I agree.
I'm just saying the show took the audience out of their comfort zone and they couldn't handle it. That's all I'm saying. Because usually stories will follow a certain type of story beat, and then you know where it's going to go. You're like, oh, this is going to happen. And that's what I thought in the first episode. I was like, oh, no. And the second episode, I thought that, but
Yeah,
I
how
was
many
like,
people
oh,
actually read the book? That's the
no.
thing, right?
I didn't read the book. So I can't comment on that. But
The acting was
yeah,
good.
like,
The acting was great. Joe Egerton,
top notch.
bro, man, I tell you what, he needs to get some attention for this.
Yeah, it was great because he played like 1,000 versions of himself, but everyone was
That
slightly
last
different.
episode
Yeah.
when it was starting to converge and he understood that there was no choice but to leave. Great.
Yeah, and I didn't see that coming either. Just
And then when they were doing the chat rooms, like we can share her.
and it was like I remember the episode before that we were all guessing how many of him there were, and then it turns out we were way off. There was like hundreds of him in one universe. It was like holy
Good thing
crap,
he got
bro.
to her first.
I know. What are the chances that he got? I think he got to her first because he
Because
was
I was
technically
almost
the original.
worried that the original Jason didn't get to her first.
That's what I was thinking too, because I was like, this is the type of show to do that kind of thing on you. So I was like, I was wondering if he really was the original, but he was, and it worked out for him. But I thought it was great, man. I thought, man, it was, Jimmy Simpson killed it, Jennifer Connelly killed it, Alison Braga killed it. Like everybody, I mean Alice Braga killed it. Like everybody killed it in the show. And I just love the science behind the show, how they explain the science, how it was simple enough. Like It didn't do the end game route where it was just like mind effing the audience. It didn't do the tenant or the end game thing where it was like, here's a bunch of exposition. It doesn't make sense, but just take our word for it. Like, nah, it was pretty simple. Like, hey, here's the box. It stays where it is. It never moves, but it's in every single dimension at every single point in time. You know, all the time. And the box just lets you perceive those different dimensions. That's it. Sweet, clear, concise. That's all you need to know. Bob's your uncle. So that's probably the whitest thing I ever said. But you
No,
know,
it's not.
but it's but
I'm not going to say it though.
it's like
I don't want to ruin your
it's
mystique.
but it's very clear and concise metaphysics, and the story when you
That's an
incorporate his
oxymoron. Clear
family.
and concise metaphysics.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. But like I feel like if this was a more mainstream storyline, that it wouldn't have the family component in it. Or if it did have the family component, it would be more like the Tony Stark family component. Like, you know how you watch any of those MCU movies, it's like, oh yeah, he has a significant other, and they're thinking about starting a family, and they'll talk about that for the first 3 minutes of the movie, and then he'll go off on his adventures and stuff like that. So it's like the family part was the heart and soul and the root of the show, and you saw that like the whole reason this was going on was to get back to them. And he could have given up. He was about to give up, but he said, no, I'd rather face, I'd rather take my chances with Oblivion than to not give it a try to get back to my family. And through brute force will, he made it back. But then it doesn't end there. Aftershock after aftershock after, like the show just keeps going and keeps guessing, and then it's just, man, I loved it, man. It was great. Shows like this, you're sad to see them go, but you're like, yo, this is so good. It doesn't need a sequel. It doesn't need a remake. It doesn't need a reboot. It doesn't need a spinoff. Leave it the hell alone. You know what I'm saying? Just leave it alone. Let it be what it is. Be done. It's, instead of making something. Exactly. Exactly, man. That's all I got to say about the show. Anything you want to add to it? All right. So let's talk about the Grand Poobah. Um, what's it called? Patriot. in honor of July 4th, um, we watched the Patriot. Now, great movie, man, great movie. I seen this movie plenty of times in my life, especially when you come up in military school. Yeah, it's a pretty hefty movie, man. 58. I don't think it's that long. Let me check. Oh, 2 hours and 45. Oof. This is back in what, 2000? Jeez, that's unheard of. Oh yeah, and the Lord of the Rings movies were 2 hours and 58 minutes. The theatrical runs were 2 hours and 58 apiece. Great, aren't they? They're amazing. Pause for a second. My thing is asking you to refresh your browser because it's preventing me from recording. He'll be back with us, folks, in a second. While he's gone, I'll talk about the movie.
I'm back.
All right, cool. I was just about to start talking. So, I have an off kilter question about this, but I'll say that for the end. I thought it was great. It's a good movie. Um, clear, clear, cut and dry movie. I text you offline, was like, "Yo, man, whatever happened to movies like The Patriot, man? A movie with just, you know, let's call it what it is, patriotism for America.
Shocking.
Um, a clear cut and dry hero, but has a dark past and wants to repent for it. Also a family film, has a lot of heart. And it also does not hold back. I mean, the director Roland Emmerich talked about how the studio wanted him to cut some shots, specifically the shots of people getting like maimed through cannon fire and stuff like that. And he pushed back against the studio, saying he didn't want to shy away from the ugliness of war. And I think it was great. I think it really helped the um, the movie by showing that. Heath Ledger, he talked about how he was researching for his role as Gabriel, and then he said he understands why Americans walk around with flags because they went through hell and back to get their country. Now, I thought it was interesting too that this movie is about the British versus the Australians. I mean, Americans. You know, Mel Gibson and Heath Ledger are both Australians. Playing American patriots. But hey, it was the 2000s. I feel like, do you think they would have got flack for doing that today?
I'm trying to think. How many mainstream guys are like that would even work?
Maybe Glenn Powell. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's it.
Paul Rudd. He's American. Because I remember Captain America: The First Avenger came out in 2011 with Chris Evans, and I remember when they were looking for somebody to cast for Captain America, they said he had to be American. He had to be, and this was
I mean,
like,
it's like James Bond's like has to be English.
yeah, because this was around the 2010s is when a lot of British and Australian guys were getting the superhero roles. And so when they went at the studio announced they were going out of their way to make sure they're um, auditioning American actors. So I thought that was, John Krasinski. He went in to try to be Captain America. Didn't really work out,
He would have been
but
perfect.
yeah, he would have been good. He would have been good. I think 13 hours was proof that he could be a soldier, and then he went on to be Jack Ryan. But yeah, like I guess you could do that back in the day. Australian actors playing Patriots, but nonetheless, it was great. Heath Ledger talked about how he almost quit acting because he was only getting offers to be teenage heartthrobs, but then he got this script and he was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna go for this part," and he got the part. You know, but I think it
Did you
was a
know
good
John
movie.
Williams did the music for it?
I didn't know that until
I
today
was
when I
watching the
saw his
credits
name on
because
it.
the credits were in the beginning of the movie, which is something that doesn't
Yeah,
really exist anymore.
yeah,
And I was like, huh,
John Williams.
John Williams, of all
Because the
people. Good for
original
him.
composer, I forgot his name, who used to work with Roland Emmerich, his treatment of the film was denied, and so he stopped working with Roland Emmerich after that, and then John Williams took over. I was like, dang, man, John Williams just shaped my childhood with all the films that he composed, man. All the hits, man, hit after hit. But and I was listening to this soundtrack, and it doesn't really have the signature John Williams song. And I think he did that just to get the nature of the colonial time and the sense of war and the patriotism of the characters. But I really like this movie. Obviously, my favorite part. You know me, I'm an action guy. My favorite part is after his son Thomas is killed, He takes his two sons, Mel Gibson, uh, I forget his name in the movie, something Martin, takes his two kids, gives them muskets. He's like, "Look, I'll shoot first," and that's that speech he has with them.
Yeah.
And then, and I was just in awe because I was like, "Yo, you know, I critique a lot of action movies and the bad choreography and the bad editing of them. Man, that scene in 2000 was great with the shooting, the
Yep.
hand to hand fighting, the editing of it was great. Not only did you see what was going on, it wasn't choppy, but you also felt the intensity of Martin and how I think his name was Benjamin, like how he was just pissed. Like he.
It was very Hollywoodized, though. It wasn't true to historical record, but that's
I
okay.
mean, of course. I mean, all those movies back then,
But you couldn't
Gladiator,
have, like, I mean, given
Braveheart.
how the Brits handled war back then, you wouldn't have a Jason Isaacs type of guy in that scenario. Like,
Nah,
they wouldn't have allowed it. You know, it's not how they were. So,
I
but you had to
mean,
do it
think
to have a
about it.
bad guy. I get it.
Think about it though. The guy Cornwallis talks about how his tactics weren't honorable, and we're not going to win this war that way. But he allowed it because Cornwallis wanted to leave the colonies and get back to England, and he knew this guy with his brutal tactics would help win the war fast so he can get back home. So that's how the movie kind of justified, like, hey, even though we're British, we're still going to let this guy um, do the tactics that he's doing. But when the war's over, we're just going to cast him out because he did some messed up stuff, you know. So it's like, we'll let him do his thing, and then we'll just cast him out because he was, pretty rotten. He wasn't honorable. But yeah, Jason Isaacs' character. It's funny too because his character is what inspired General Zhao and at the Avatar show. And when they were making the character, they was like, we got to get a guy like Jason Isaacs from that character Tavington in the Patriot. And then the producers actually went and got Jason Isaacs to voice that character in the Avatar cartoon. But yeah, man, like I really like this movie. But that scene is my favorite scene, and every time I watch it, I rewind it and watch it again because I'm just like, yo, that's a great scene because you see Martin Mel Gibson's character composed the whole time. He's against war, and he has a reason. You don't know the reason, but he has a reason. You get the sense like he did some messed up stuff uh,
He was a veteran
back
of
in
the
his
French and
past
Indian
life.
War. You can tell because he had a tomahawk
Yep,
and he was
and
killing people with it. So, he
yep,
learned some stuff from the Indians.
and he's like composed. He's a chill guy. He's like, yo, you don't want to do this, son. You don't want to join the army. Trust me when I tell you. And then they kill his son, and something snaps in him, and this guy goes for blood. And you see the reactions of all three of his boys' faces when he's just ripping these guys apart. Like he's just like drops the guns, like he's just going for it, just bow, like he's just tearing them apart, man. And I just love that in the scene where you see they're like, oh, never seen this side of dad. What the hell is going on here, man? Like, I just love it, man. It's just great acting. It's great directing. It's just awesome.
Chris Cooper, too. Good, as what was it, General Knox?
Yeah, General. I like how Mel Gibson's character is watching the battle with Heath Ledger, and he's like, "This battle was lost long before it began. He's trying to beat the British with their own tactics, and it's not going to work. He fought alongside them too long." And I'm like, yeah, man, you got to go guerrilla warfare style. And I like how they show, like, he's like, oh, look, let me show you what I've done back in the day. Let me school y'all. And that's what helps them start to win the war, the guerrilla tactics. Because, and I wanted to point this out too. I was like, how do we go from ancient times where dudes are full armored up with swords and shields to a time where dudes are wearing tights and powdered wigs and just walking squared up like, hey, I dare you to shoot me. All right, my turn. Your turn. And like, well, like, how did we get to that point? Like, like we're going to fight like gentlemen. We're going to march, and I'm going to let you try to shoot me. You know, and
Yeah,
yes,
linear
muskets back
warfare. I feel
then
sorry for those guys because the only way you survived was out of pure luck that you just didn't get whacked. That's it.
because
There was
those
no
muskets back in the
skill.
day
There was
were
no
hella
skill
inaccurate.
involved at all
Yes,
surviving.
no skill. Because it wasn't about skill. It was literally about who has the most men to sacrifice.
Yes.
Like, last man standing wins, basically. It makes no sense. And like those muskets were highly inaccurate back in the day, which is why they had those long barrels because they hoped it would straighten out the bullet by the time it got to the end of the barrel and it would just shoot straight on. You know, like some of these scenes where they're just like, oh, they're shooting with a gun and it's across the field and they're hitting the guy in the head. I'm like, that's highly inaccurate, but you know, it's Hollywood.
Yeah.
you know,
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, because when he did Point Blank, dude, like he was like in
yeah,
Lethal Weapon, and he shoots that guy with the musket. I was like, "There's no way anyone would have done that. I don't care how good of a marksman you are. It's like there's no way."
there's no way, bro. There's no, which is
He's
why
like
they
shooting.
still
He's
use
shooting
swords
that
back
musket
then.
like Arnold did as a shotgun in the Terminator.
Yeah, I know, right? I know, right? You're like, yo, that doesn't happen, bro. But that's why back then they still had swords. They were still using swords because it took too long to reload those muskets, and you would have to load the barrel, load the powder, and everything like that. And you see it
Prime
in the
it.
movie. They show it.
No, takes
Yeah,
it takes
prime
like
it, and there's
takes like 40 seconds.
it's like way too much by the time, and that's why the handles were the way they were, because you could turn them over and use them as a hammer and hammer somebody's face when they get too close. So you know it could like those battles would be so like gentlemanlike, but they could turn brutal so quick. As soon as someone gets a little bit of yardage on you, it's like, oh, it's hand to hand real fast, man. You got bayonets and you got
Then it's back
swords.
to like the Middle Ages with the armor and stuff. Like you're just going to town with swords.
The only problem is those dudes back then weren't wearing armor. They were wearing like suit jackets and shit.
Yeah, they all look like Captain Crunch,
It made no sense. Like the guy in the one
like
scene,
a
the
Michael
French
Jackson
guy,
Thriller concert. You know?
he came out with that whole decked out. He's like, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die looking good. It's
Yeah, the
like, all
French
right.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, all right. You can't argue with that, man. If it was me, I'd try to find something like maybe put a stack of wood, planks on
Now
or
we got
something like
guns
that.
that can shoot like 4 miles away and stuff.
Yeah. Crazy, man.
I like
Crazy
the
back
movie a
then.
lot. Say, Mel Gibson, man. I feel like he was the it guy in the early 2000s, 90s, 2010s, early 2010s. Well, early 2000s, mid 2000s, he had his rant and he got expelled from Hollywood. But man, dude, he had a long time of being the guy.
He was the guy. He got 25 mil for this movie back in 2000.
It's
Bro.
like Nicolas Cage type of stuff, dude. Like he was getting mad money too then. He spent it all.
Nicholas
Mel
Cage
Gibson was
was the
smart with it at least.
yeah. Nicholas Cage was the other guy. He was the other it guy. Like getting everything, all with his toupees, getting everything because
It
he
helped that
lost his
his
hair.
uncle is Francis Ford Coppola, though.
Yeah, yeah, but I respect him trying to change his name and get away from that.
Didn't it didn't it
But
didn't work.
it didn't work. Once the news got out, it was like,
It
come
didn't
on, guy.
work. I
I
was
was like,
like,
at
"Oh,
least Nick Cage
your
sounds cooler.
uncle's like is the most famous filmmaker ever in the history of the world." Okay, I mean, sure, we'll help you out.
Sure, we'll help you out. So when do you want to work? What time you want to get on set tomorrow? So,
Yeah,
but yeah, Mel Gibson was that guy
him
back
and
in the
Kevin
day.
Costner, dude, were like that older.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they
there was
always did
another one
these
that
kind of
was.
movies.
Yeah,
Kevin Costner and him like for Mel Gibson's Braveheart, there was Kevin Costner's Dance with Wolves or Robin
Waterworld.
Hood, Waterworld, which
Oof,
is a guilty pleasure of mine. I know it sucks as a movie, but I like it.
it's one of the most expensive movies ever made,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it bombed so bad. It's like they filmed that in Hawaii too, right?
Numerous places because of the monsoons and stuff like that. I think.
I
I
still don't
think I saw a
understand.
documentary on it.
I still don't. I've watched it enough. I still don't understand the premise of it.
I still don't understand after that movie, people still underestimate the hubrisness of Kevin Costner. you know, he just released a movie out that looked like a poor man's Patriot, and it just did not. I don't think anybody saw it. I don't even remember the name of it. It just looked cheesy as hell,
That's a
and I
shame
was like, yeah, yeah, and
because
all that
he's
drama
not
that's
doing
happening on
Yellowstone anymore.
Yellowstone.
So he's got something he's got to do.
You know why? Because of his ego. I hear there's a lot of drama with him, and I'm like, after Waterworld,
And
y'all didn't get the
Waterworld was
memo.
almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, 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 man, long time. But yeah, I mean, the Patriot, man. What can I say? It's a great movie from start to finish. I gotta say it was interesting when I was rewatching. I was like, oh, I don't remember Mel Gibson's character having slaves. Turns out they weren't slaves; they were free men working there. And I read that Spike Lee and his wife came out the movie theater pissed off when they saw the movie. They was like, "Oh, what a cop out! Not making him a slave owner. They're not being, you know, uh, true to history." And even Mel Gibson saw that comment and said, "You know what? That was a cop out. If it was up to me, I would have made him a slave owner." But I asked, "What do you do in a situation like that?" Because we know as a nation as a whole that was a wrong thing to do, and you're trying to make a movie of an honorable character. I don't think you can make him a slave owner. You know,
I don't know if that's true because a lot of the framers who founded this nation, like they were
we're
honorable
slave owners.
men, but they still had slaves. Like they were able to separate the two. Because slavery, like we look at it in terms of 2024 standards, slavery then was just like another tool to like live. Like that was just part of everything. Like black people were such a dehumanized thing. Like they weren't viewed as people; they were property, and that's just the status quo. That was the norm for us. Obviously, they're people, right? Like, and so we can't separate the two. But then you could, so you could have honorable men and still be slave owners. In terms of what honor was in colonial time America,
I don't think so, but that's just me. I mean, I am the grandson of a slave, so or a man who was born into slavery. But uh, I don't know if you could do that to where I mean, because think about it. I mean, I forgot what this movie is called, but there's a Buster Keaton movie that's basically like he's the hero of the movie, but he's a Confederate soldier. So it's like in the
but
back of
he
my
lived in
mind the
South
whole time I'm
Carolina
watching
too,
it.
dude. Like in the South, like there was no way he wasn't a slave owner, and they were
I
all
don't think
Christian.
every white person in the South was a
No,
slave
guys
owner.
who were wealthy were.
Yeah, yeah, that's
He was
true.
wealthy, obviously. Look at his land.
That's true. But they didn't make him a slave owner in the movie. He just had black people who were there who chose to be there.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
It's fascinating. He was the one guy. He
Yeah, the
saw
one person back then. Anyway,
it.
totally makes
He's
sense.
I mean, he's a fictional character based off of
100%. Guys
other
like that weren't a
characters.
thing. Come on. It is what
And
it is.
so, any thoughts? What are your thoughts on this movie?
I mean, besides it was just Hollywood fiction, it's a good movie. You can take it away
Yes,
like period piece. It's a good movie. Everything's well done. I'm glad you didn't need a whole bunch of CGI. It was just filmed correctly, edited correctly, sets were made correctly. Everything was done the way that it should have. And I love Mel Gibson, man. Like I forgave him for his insanity. So
I forgave him. I'm glad you did.
I forgave him. I know there's other people who have not and will not. I'm like, people make mistakes. Like it's not the first time someone famous has screamed out about how
Yeah,
Jews run
people
the
make
world and awful and
mistakes.
all that's not going to change. It's we're going to have more of it. It seems to be the cool thing now anyway. So I don't think Mel Gibson would have been canceled now. if he said that stuff.
People made mistakes, but he kept making the same mistake.
That's very true. Yes, yes. He referred to us as oven dodgers. That was his famous name. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The ones that lived
Well,
through the Holocaust were oven dodgers to him.
dear God.
Yeah,
This is your guy, man.
that's my guy. It's fine.
Your guy.
He's a white Kanye.
Oh, yeah. He paved the way.
Well,
right?
Kanye keeps going down this road, and he's just
yeah.
doubling down. At least Mel Gibson's at least has remorse.
I mean, at least Mel Gibson's a good actor, and he can pretend to have remorse. Let's say that.
Yeah,
you know.
He's a man of God. Forgiveness, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, so were the KKK, men of God.
So were the slave owners.
Exactly. Forgotten country, right?
Yeah, right, definitely. Now, one thing I do like is that there's only been one, and I really don't hope there's a remake like there is with Gladiator.
Why
if I
does
see
that
one more
exist?
remake of a movie and Pedro Pascal's in it, sorry, I had a Joe Biden moment. Couldn't say what I wanted to say. Pedro Pascal, I feel like he's in everything. Why? I don't understand. Why is he in a movie about Rome?
He's a good industry guy. I think we had this conversation.
We've had this
offline
conversation.
before,
I just
where he's
Ridley Scott's dying from dementia. He needs to stop this nonsense now.
But they're not remaking. It's supposed to be a sequel, but some of those shots look like it's a remake, doesn't it?
Yes.
It looks like a remake with Paul Mescal or something like that. The guy, the main character's name, the main actor's name.
Yeah.
But I'm like, because we've all been told this is a sequel, and it's carrying on Maximus's
Yeah, because the character
legacy.
is like the grandson of Lucilla, who was the heir to the throne.
Mm-hmm. But I'm just like, this looks like a remake, like a shot for shot remake. These screenshots that we're getting, I don't know if the audience is being trolled. I don't know if we're being tricked, but it looks like a remake to me.
Gaslit.
Yeah. No, not Pedro Pascal. Paul Mescal. That's the guy. Yeah, so it's not a remake because they're different names for these characters, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to try to figure it out because I'm not trying to figure out what's.
By the way.
Oh, it's coming out this year?
Yeah, November 22nd.
Oh, interesting. I thought it was coming out next year.
Well, let me check.
Nah, it is coming out this year.
Yeah, it's coming out this year.
Oh, snap.
Let me ask you something.
Interesting.
Why is Denzel Washington in here?
They had black people back then. I think the question you're looking for is
why
does he look
would
like
Denzel
an emperor?
Washington? It's not about the black people. Like, why would he be in here?
Man, it's got to get paid.
He has made so much money. Let's stop.
I honestly don't know. That was one casting that I was scratching my head on. I was like, what?
Who was the guy? He doesn't do a lot anymore, but it was in the original Gladiator. Who was the black guy? What's his name?
Jaimin Hansu. He does a lot.
Love him. Great actor.
And I'm surprised he's not in this.
But you got Pedro Pascal instead.
Pascal. Apparently, that's how you're supposed to say it. I feel like you're saying it because you don't like him.
Might as well have Shia LaBeouf in here.
Shia LaBeouf. Nah, he'd probably want to fight everybody on set.
Nah, dude, he converted to Catholicism. He converted from Judaism to Catholicism.
Of course he did. That's what all troublesome,
the original
celebrities do.
Lucilla's in here. Connie Nielsen.
Yeah, I seen that.
She hasn't really done anything besides Gladiator.
Who?
Connie Nielsen.
Oh, yeah. She hasn't really done. Not that I've seen. She hasn't really.
She does a lot of TV.
Yeah. But Peter Mensa's in here. He's the guy who was in Spartacus. That show I loved.
No, that was pretty good.
Spartacus. Good show. Good
So,
show.
how old is Ridley Scott? Let's look.
Oh, he's like late 70s. Easy.
Oh, 78.
Oof. Time to retire, bro.
No, he was born in 37, so that'll make him 87. I'm sorry. Born in,
What?
yeah.
Time to retire. That explains a lot.
He has Joe Biden moments, bro.
No offense to him, no offense to anybody, but how is this guy still getting
He
huge
has.
movie deals?
You ready for this? He has 20 upcoming movies in production. 20 that he's credited.
What? He's not even going to live long enough for those.
Alien Romulus, Gladiator 2. There's an Alien TV show. The
He's producing
Chronology
the
of
Alien
Water.
stuff. He's not
What the heck
directing.
is this?
The
Chronology of
Chronology
Water.
of Water. He's producing some and directing some.
War Party, Rapes of the Broken Land, The Cartel, David, Prime Target, Earthless, Echo Valley, Sinking Gravity Rush.
Blade Runner 2099, a
2099.
miniseries.
Oh, it's a TV miniseries.
So some of these he's just
It's coming to
credited as
Prime, by the
producer.
way. I'm skeptical.
Yeah. But some of these he's just credited as producer. His name's attached because that's his IP, like Alien and Blade Runner. He's not really like actively on it.
So
But
the new Blade Runner 2099 show,
hmm
it's a bunch of nobodies in this.
I think that's for the best though. Because then you don't have any baggage with the role. You can just watch
Except
the
for
film.
Michelle Yeoh, who was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Right.
Besides that, it's a
I
bunch of
mean,
nobodies.
yeah. But they may become somebodies after this.
Yeah, we'll see.
I love the Blade Runner universe, so I'm excited for this.
Me too.
Oh, Hunter
But
Schafer's in this. Hunter Schafer's the transgender actress from Euphoria. And Sheila
awesome.
Atim, okay, yeah, she's in there too. But yeah, I mean,
Great. I can't wait for that.
you seem thrilled. You seem absolutely thrilled.
I'm just
the stress. I see it. You're just like really. I just don't understand how this guy keeps getting huge Hollywood deals after just trash after trash.
You know who doesn't do a whole lot that should? Ron Howard.
Yeah,
But he's
still
looking to
doing
sell
good
his
stuff.
studio, by the way.
Interesting, really.
He's probably going to make a couple billion from that.
Why doesn't he just pass it down to his daughter? Does great work.
She probably doesn't want to handle that's a lot of work, dude.
That's true. She probably just want to do the creative side, the directing and the acting.
She's got credits to her name. She can do her own thing without having rely on her father.
At least give her a seat on the board. Maybe she already does. I feel like for stuff like that, you need a creative person on the board. You can't just have executive board directors.
No, it's the same thing with like school districts, right? You don't have anyone who's like, honest to God, teachers on terms of making curriculum. You just have bureaucrats thinking that's enough, right?
True. Yeah, and that's how films die. You just have board members making films instead of creatives making films. I'm looking at you, Marvel.
Oh God!
You were a great dynasty, and now you're dying.
You know what? I'm looking forward to playing some Elden Ring again, so I don't have to deal with any more insanity.
I'm looking forward to playing Ghost of Tsushima, because I don't have to deal with any. You know what? All this trash we've been getting lately has made me appreciate. It's made me appreciate the stuff that's come before. The old Pirates of the Caribbean movies, the old Lord of the Rings movies. All the Star Wars movies, Star Wars 1 through 6. Those are the only movies that exist, and Rogue One. And the Andor show. Everything else doesn't exist.
I just got Rogue One on 4K, by the way.
Gotta watch it, bro. Gotta watch it. And when my new monitor comes in, I'm gonna watch everything on that. Everything. My OLED monitor. But yeah, man, I'm just appreciating everything that's come out before, rewatching things, revisiting things, and I'm just like, I should have appreciated you more. Because look what we have now. Trash. We have the
It's gonna get
acolyte.
fixed. It'll just take a while.
It's going to take a minute. It's going to probably take like another 5 years. Studios still haven't learned their lesson, but they
No, they
will.
will.
They will, because between the theaters and streaming, they're losing money in both. Pretty soon they're going to have nothing, which is why everybody's selling themselves to other companies. Everybody's buying companies because they need the content. They need the partnerships. They're dying. They're bleeding out. So they think if we come together, we will conquer. But consumers have had enough, man. Like,
I'm
no,
one of them.
we're not for it. We're good. Piracy is going to win out in the end. Is piracy is what's going to make all these companies honest again.
I
Put
got a
them
pirate
morally
joke
in
right
check.
before you go. You ready?
What's up?
Why didn't a pirate go to the movies?
No idea why.
It was rated R.
Oh my gosh! On that note, my nomads, this was another good one. I hope you learned something. If you didn't, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not your
Go
father.
pirate your stuff.
Hey, there you go. There's a pirate joke. Why didn't the pirate go to the movies? Because he could just pirate it himself. All right, my nomads. Dad jokes. Peace. Be creative.